Hello, everybody. Welcome back to today's ACT Prep question of the day. I'm Jess. I'm a homeschool mom of 8 with a degree in physics and a passion for making math click for every learner. I have 2 students signed up for the ACTs in October, and I hope you guys get signed up. It is, if you go to www.act.org, you can see the upcoming testing dates and get signed up. So I encourage you guys to do that. Let's take a look at today's question of the day. Given the functions f of x is equal to 4 divided by x plus 3, what is or are the real values for which f of t is equal to t? And there's 5 options there. At this point, I want you guys to go ahead and pause the video. See if you can solve this on your own and go ahead and type which answer you came up with in the comments, and we'll check and see if that's correct at the end of the video. So we have a polynomial function, f of x is equal to 4 divided by x plus t. And we want to know with what real numbers f of t is equal to t. So this is saying if we substitute in a number for x there in the denominator, that 4 divided by that number plus 3 will equal the number that we substituted in x for t. Okay, but let's go over some other terminology why we have the opportunity. So it says real numbers. There are going to be some questions on the ACT where you will likely see some definitions or some questions that rely on you knowing definitions. So let's review them. Real numbers are numbers that can be represented on a number line, and it can include all of the following: integers. Okay, those are whole numbers, including positive, negative, and 0. Rational numbers, those are numbers that can be expressed as a fraction. For example, 3/4, 5/8. Okay, irrational numbers. Those are numbers whose decimals representations are non-terminal and non-repeating. Pi is an example of that. Okay, but so we have this polynomial function, and we're going to substitute t in for x and set it equal for t. So we have t is equal to 4 divided by t plus 3. Now, in order to solve this, we're first going to have to multiply both sides by t plus 3. And when we do, we find that t squared plus 3t is equal to 4. Now we're going to need to turn this into a quadratic equation that we can factor. So we're going to subtract 4 from both sides and get t squared plus 3t minus 4 is equal to 0. Now remember, when we factor quadratic equations, we need to find 2 numbers whose sum is 3 and whose product is -4. Well, 4 times -1 is -4, and 4 minus 1 is a sum of 3. So we plug those numbers in and we have t plus 4 times t minus 1, and that's equal to 0. And if you aren't sure if you factored that, maybe you're a little confused, think maybe you might have it backwards on which one's negative, which one's positive. Okay, you can always check your factoring with a FOIL method for multiplying binomials. So if we multiply it back out, you do your first, so t times t is t squared. Your outer, t times -1 is -t. Your inner, that's 4 times t is 4t. And your last, 4 times -1 is -4. And so you're going to have t squared minus t plus 4t minus 4. And we do find out that we did indeed factor correctly and end up with the original equation. Okay, so we need to look at this equation and figure out, well, for which real numbers is this equation true? So we know that when we're multiplying, any number times 0 is going to be equal to 0. So if we can make the first part of the equation, t plus 4 equal to 0, then we'll know that we have a real number, which turns out to be -4, in which this equation is true. We can also say, well, t minus 1 needs to equal 0. And when we do that, we find that if t equals 1, 1 minus 1 is 0. So therefore, t equals -4 and t equals 1 are both true. And choice C is our correct answer. Now, a lot of times on the standardized tests like the ACT where it's multiple choice, it is faster to actually not go through and solve the equation for the answers, but instead to check the answers that are given to you. Okay, so -1 is repeated here in several of the answers. So first, let's test and see if t equals -1 is a possible answer. Okay, so if we have the polynomial function, and we're going to make it f of -1 is equal to 4 divided by -1 plus 3. Well, -1 plus 3 is 2, so 4 over 2 is equal to 2. Well, that doesn't equal -1, so that answer is false. Okay, -1 is not a solution. So we easily eliminate A, D, and E. Okay, so now we're down to choices B and C. So let's test B. Okay, f of -3 is equal to -3 divided by -3 plus 3. Well, here we end up with a 0 in the denominator, and that's undefined. So therefore, -3 is not a solution. So the only possible solution then is C. And you know that indeed, if you do test it out, you come up with the correct answer. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and join me next time for another practice problem. You can count on Jess.